Hi, welcome again to 3x Point. So, in this session, we are going to be setting up our environment. So, I believe you've watched the video on database normalization, and you must have watched the very first hands-on, which introduced you to IT generally, which also introduced you to, our DBMSs. So, you already have some good foundational knowledge, and for us to use the tools to do the things that we will be doing going on in this course, we need to set up our environment. Now, our environment depends on what system you have. It depends on if you're using a Mac or a Windows operating system, if you're using an OS 10 operating system. There are different approaches, but generally speaking, I will go with just one particular, more like one size fits all kind of approach. So, and that approach is by using virtualization. So, what do I mean by virtualization? Let me bring up my slide to show you some demonstration. So, I'm going to bring up my slide now. And looking at this, what I'm trying to explain here is, let's say this is you right here. Oops, let me change the direction of this. Right, this is you. This is you having your own laptop. Now, all the tools that you'll be installing, you can install them on your laptop directly, but that's not really a good practice, especially when you're just started learning a technology. You want to be able to test that technology first before when you're good at it, then you can now start installing things on your laptop. By that time, you understand what you're doing so that you don't mess up your laptop to a point where you have to start doing uninstallation, reinstallation, and you can mess up some registry settings on your computer, and you may have bought your laptop for a very, very expensive amount of money. But I don't want you to find yourself in that position, because I found myself in that position some years ago, and I learned the very hard way. But you don't have to go through the same thing. So what I normally tell people to do is have a virtualization technology on your laptop, right? So, but then you need to ensure that you have virtualization enabled on your computer. So you can either Google virtualization, how to enable virtualization on your computer. That is if you don't have it enabled already. Right now, I won't cover that in this video, but I would endeavor, I'm not promising, but I'll endeavor to cover that in a separate video. If you ever have any problem like that, whereby you're unable to do what I'm about to show you, just because you don't have virtualization enabled, you can simply just send an email to info@3xpoint.com, or you send out an email, a message on Facebook, and then we can give you support on how to troubleshoot that. But if you're lucky enough to have the setting enabled by default, then you can just go ahead and do this. But I mean, until you get to a particular point in installation, you might not know if you have it enabled or not. In some computers, you might be able to actually easily know by right clicking on this space down here and then go to Task Manager. So if you open up Task Manager like this, go to Performance, and then click on CPU, right? CPU is where you want to go. Now, if you look at the bottom right, you will see virtualization enabled. So if you're lucky enough to have this, then you're lucky. So you need to check this first if you're using Windows operating system. If you're using Mac, to be honest, I don't know how to check for its virtualization, but um, you can just follow along for now. If you run into errors and troubles for this reason, then let us know, and then we would give you support. Okay, so that's enough about that. So talking about virtualization, so what we basically want to do is we want to create computers inside your computer. And that's just all virtualization is all about. So we're going to be installing computer inside your computer. So that means the computer will be installing, will have its own memory, will have its own CPU, will have its own disk. You can click on the start button, you can, go into the file system, you can do the same things that you do on your laptop. The only difference is just that it is not a physical computer, it is just a virtual computer. All right, so having said that, I will show you the things that you need to install to get that started, so that when you install them inside the virtualized computer, then you will be working from there. You won't be working from your computer. Anytime you want to connect to your database, you will be connecting to the virtualized computer on your computer. So let's get to work. So open your browser and go to Google. The first thing we want to download is VMware. That's the software that would enable us to install computer. VMware is not the computer itself. I'll repeat that because a lot of people make that mistake. VMware is not the computer, but it is the channel through which you get your computers created. So go to, actually I think I already typed it somewhere. So yeah, so this is where you're going to type in Google. Download VMware Workstation Player. Right. So once you write that, just go to find the one that says vmware.com download player, and then right click, open a new tab. I have it open in this new tab already. You will come to this page and you'll see options. If you're using VMware Workstation for Windows, this is for Windows. If you're using Windows 64-bit, then you can just hit download. Now, this is for Linux, but I'm very sure a lot of people wouldn't be using Linux. Let's actually find for VMware. Yeah, now I remember. It's not actually called Workstation. For those who use Mac, it's actually called VMware Fusion. Yes. So that's what you want. So download VMware Fusion. Let's see what that brings up. Okay, I'm gonna close this. It appears that's not the correct website. So what we're looking for, don't go for this Fusion 8 by. Go for download VMware Fusion 8 and the website. Let's just go there. It should look like this. So when you come here, you want to go to download. So you can see VMware Fusion 8.0, and then it says Intel based Macs, and then you can just click on download here. Right, download VMware Fusion for Mac OS 10. Yeah, so for those who use Mac, this is what you need. So once you have that downloaded, there are two more things we need to download. The first thing is you want to download SQL Server. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, let's just type it. Download SQL Server 2014 Express. Express edition is just good enough for you. So you would see this link here, Microsoft.com, download Express, just open it in new tab and come here. Now, it is always very important to read things, documentation and things very well before you just, hit download. So here it says details. So go to details. This is not where you're going to download. This is where you're going to download actually, but I just want you to see that so you can read all the things that are here if you like, so you know the meaning of each of these things. So basically, if you see 32x86, that means if you're using a computer that is 32-bit, So anything 86 is 32-bit. But if you are on 64-bit, then this is what you need. So how do I know if I'm using 32-bit or 64-bit? So when you come to your, let me close it and go back. So you can see this Windows Explorer, the File Explorer. If you click on it, go to this PC, or you may, what you have may be different. It might be this computer or just computer. So, but that's where you want to go. Right click and hit Properties. Here you would see, this is where you know if it's 64-bit or 32-bit. So you can see system type. Mine is 64-bit operating system, right? So that's what you need. Okay, so now that I know that I use 64-bit, I'll come back here, and then I would have decided, okay, I'm going for 64-bit. So I have no business with any other thing that's not 64-bit. Now there are two other options there. So there is 64-bit SQL XPR. SQL means SQL. EXPR means Express. Now what I'm actually more interested in is this 64-bit SQL EXPR ADV. ADV meaning advanced. So I need at least 1.1 gig to be able to download this file. So you must make sure you have enough disk space before you go ahead with the download. We're not talking about installation yet. This is just downloading it. And you can go into system requirement, read up the requirement. There's requirement for processor, there's requirement for RAM. You must have minimum of 512 MB and then minimum of 4.2 gig of hard disk space. This is for the installation, not for the download. So you must have at least 4.2 to install it. And you can read more instructions and additional information if you want. So now that you have information, you can just click on download, and all the 32-bit, 64-bit we're talking about just now, it will bring it up, and you can just scroll down to the one you're interested in. And in our case, what we want is this one, SQL XPRD Advanced. The reason is because there is still another video where when you watch that, you understand more the difference between when you see SQL management, no, not SQL, when you see management studio like this, MGMT studio, either 32-bit or 64-bit, when you see this and when you see like this that we want to install, there's difference between them. So the difference is just that this advanced means it has a combination of both the management studio, the database engine, and a lot more features than if you downloaded just the management studio. If you downloaded just the management studio, what you have is just a client tool that helps you to connect to the database engine, but you don't have the engine. So what we are downloading is both the management studio, which is the client tool, and the engine. So once you have that clicked or selected or checked, just click on next. And the next thing is you'll see it will start downloading. Depending on the speed of internet you have, it might take a couple of minutes or hours, it all depends on that. Okay, so we have that downloaded as well. So we already have VMware, we have SQL engine and management studio downloaded. Finally, we now want the operating system that we want to download. So you can go to Google again and write this: download Windows Server 2012 R2 evaluation. Evaluation means you only have access to it for three months. So meaning after 3 months you probably won't be able to use it. It's just like a test. And the whole idea is that by the end of 3 months you already have enough knowledge after going through this course, and by then you can now install it on your laptop properly, so that, because this whole process might involve you installing, running into issues, removing the installation. I've seen people go through that a lot. You know, you don't want to mess up your computer. So once you've have that sorted, then you'll be free to do it on your own computer, right? So you click on this one. I think the first one that comes up is fine. What you're interested in is the ISO file, is what you're looking for. ISO, what it means, I don't know what the abbreviation means, but what it typically means is it's like a virtualized CD. In those days, when you want to install anything, you put a disk, a CD, in the driver, and then you run the installation media. But in this case, everything is virtualized. So now with the putting those CD online, like a regular file you can download and you can just run. You mount it, they call it mount. So you can mount it and then use it for installation. But in this case, we're actually not going to mount it, we'll just put it inside VMware directly. You'll see that in action very soon. So when you click on that, it comes to this page. Now this will require you to have like a Microsoft account, maybe Outlook or Live or Hotmail. Once you have that, you can sign in. When you sign in, you come to there'll be a number of products that'll come up. What you're interested in is Windows Server 2012 R2, and it says evaluation for 180 days. Once you've signed in, you see the download button and you can click on download. I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to click it again. So now we're ready to start our installation. So we're going to start first with the VMware. So I'll go to my downloads and I'll look for VMware. So this is VMware right here. So you can right click and click on run as administrator. If you own your laptop, you won't have a problem with this. If it's not your laptop, you might need an administrative password to do that. Right, okay. But if you don't right click and run as an administrator, you could double click. If it allows you to go, then that's good. So after that, you can hit next, accept. This is a very straightforward installation. And no, I don't need enhanced features. I don't want any complexity. So next, check for products. Yeah, leave all these ones. Help improve VMware. No, I don't want to send any reports, so I'm gonna just click on check that. Create shortcuts, yes. Start menu, programs folder, yes, that's fine. Install. So this is going to be a very fast installation. It doesn't take a long time. So our installation is complete. I'll hit finish, and I believe that's done. VMware, yeah. So if you go to your search bar and click on VMware, you'll see VMware come up, and this is how it will look like. So you won't have all these ones. These are servers that are already created before, so it just picked up the settings automatically when I reinstalled it. So but in your own case, you won't have all of this. It's just going to be blank, and you have home. Right, on the home you would see different options. What you're most concerned about is this create a new virtual machine, and that's what you want to do. Now I am going to be doing this with a assumption that you have finished downloading the Windows server. I mean this one right here, Windows server. I already have mine downloaded. So if I click on new virtual machine, you would see installer disk image file ISO. That's what you downloaded, right? So hit browse and direct it to the location. So you can hit browse like that, and then in my own case, it's just brought me by default to the location where I downloaded it. You can see it's taking me to the downloads folder, and this is the disk. So I'll click on it and open. So the next thing I want to do is hit next, and I can name this SQL server. That's what I want to name it. And in my own case, I don't want it to be on my C drive. And the reason for this is because my computer is actually oh, it's been free. As I yesterday was so red, So I think it became free after I did a restart. But still, I have a lot of disk space in other drives, so I'm just going to direct it elsewhere. And meanwhile, in my own case, I mean, I like to do things, in a very organized manner. So what I did was I came to my D drive and then I created this folder. So you may, it's not necessary, but you may want to do similar thing. So you could just right click, create new folder like that, and then you could just specify the name of the folder, virtual machines. Yeah, and yeah, you can do something like that. So I'll delete this. And the reason for this is so simple. You see, the virtual machines you're creating, they're just files, right? They're just files. Look, these are the machines that I created before, and this is what you would see, vmdk files. Okay, so I mean, that's just the architecture. That's the way it is. So now that we have our virtual machine folder, so I'm just going to browse there. So it's D drive. I have virtual machine. So I can decide that I want to put it inside another folder inside virtual machine. So I'll just name it SQL server. I'll select that, click OK, and click next. And you can specify how much of disk space you want to give to it. Now it's giving you a recommendation that recommended size for Windows Server 2012 is 60 gig. And in my case, I want to store it as a single file. You can choose to do multiple files. It doesn't really matter. It's only told you that splitting the disk makes it easier to move the virtual machine to another computer, but may reduce performance with very large disk. We're not using very large disk, so we don't actually need splitting the files anyway. We're not doing any migration project or anything like that. So I'll just say single file is fine. Click next, and I want to power on the virtual machine after creation, and I'll click finish. So this is actually going to take a long time, and it's asking me if I want to install some tools. I do want to install them, so I'll say yes, download and install. I'll maximize this. So I'll be pausing the video from time to time because it's actually going to take a very long time. So, you would see. Okay, so it will bring us to this page. Now, notice that the screen is quite small. Okay, we're going to fix this once the installation is complete. But for now, bear with me. You can zoom if you want to, if you can. And what I'm really just selecting is the language. So I'm selecting English United Kingdom because that's where I am. And I will click next. And I'll click install now. And here it's going to ask us, do we want server core or we want a server with a GUI? Now what core means is we won't have graphical user interface where we can click next like this. Everything will be command prompt. We don't want that. We want something with a GUI. So I'll just click the last one, which is evaluation with GUI, and hit next. And I would accept the terms, click next. And what I want to do is custom install, not upgrade. So the second option is what I want. Then I will just leave everything as it is here and click next. And this is the part that I was actually referring to that will take a very long time to complete. It also depends on the configuration of your computer. If you have a good size of processor, all those things really matter. So now we have our server completely downloaded. So you can put your password. I'm going to do mine. And make sure you remember your password. This is the administrator's account. If you don't remember this password, you'll never be able to log on to this server. Finish. Now, something I need to let you know. Anytime you try to work on this and for some reason you can't find your cursor, what you have to do is click on Control and Alt. So let's say, for example, you can't see this cursor that's moving around. Let's say it's gone away. If you if you hit Control Alt together, it will come back on. So bear that in mind. Now, another thing you should note again is it says here press Control plus Alt plus Delete. If you do that, it will affect your main computer, right? Because don't forget, this is a virtual computer. So if you press this command, let me do that now so you see. You can see that this is my main laptop and it is trying to log out or sign out or something like that. So I've hit cancel. But to be able to get past that, what you should do is press Control Alt Insert. So if you press Control Alt Insert like that, this is what you would see, and then you'll be able to put in your password. Alternatively, you can come to the top left. You'll see this icon right here. If you hover over it, it says send Control Alt Delete. So that's what it's gonna help you to do here. It will help you to send the command to the virtual machine, and if you click on that, it will take you to the page where you put your password. So now we have our server. As you can see, even though it's really small, like I promised, we're going to fix that. All we need to do with that is let me quickly do that now. Click on this file explorer, Windows Explorer. Once that come up, you would see the D drive. Double click on that and double click on the setup. No, that's not what we want. Actually, it shouldn't be looking like this. It should look grayish. So it looks like the tools that we installed before did not install completely or didn't finish. So what you would do in this case is, because this DVD drive thing shouldn't be blue like this, it should be gray. So come to player and manage and click on install VMware tools. So in case you had that, that's what you would do. So you can see that that has changed to gray. So if you double click on that now, then you should have this pop up, preparing VMware tools installation. So we need to do this for us to be able to enlarge our screen back. If we don't, we might not be able to do that. So you can see this blinking thing here. So you can click on that and you get this box. So hit next and you want to do complete. Hit next, install, and wait for this to complete installation. Okay, we're waiting for this to complete the installation. Okay, now so it's done. So you can just click finish. And now you're gonna have to restart the computer to complete all these things. So we're back to that same page again. It's restarted. And remember, Control Alt Insert. Control Alt Insert. And then put your password. So the last bit of the configuration is to right click on this space, this blank gray space, and then you will see screen resolution. So hit on that screen resolution and scroll down, you would see resolution. So currently we're on 1024.768, so you want to bring it up. So take it all the way to the top, all the way to the top, enter and apply. So you can see we're getting bigger gradually. So you can click on it again and drag it further up. So we can stop somewhere here, apply, keep changes, and that's it. So now we have our full server fully configured. So as you can see, we have our Windows icon here. You know, it's exactly another computer within your computer. You can see. Let me drag it around for you. So everything that you can do on your laptop is what you can do here again. Okay, so now that we have this, there are two more things we want to do that I'm going to have to show you. Remember we downloaded SQL, where is it? Okay, so remember we downloaded this SQL EXPRDV Advanced. So the question comes to you that how do I move this file into the virtual machine, because this is our main RDBMS engine that we want to install. So what I normally do is I map a drive inside the virtual machine, and what that means is so that if I open up this, just the same way as I can open up folders within my virtual machine, I want to be able to open up folder and get into my laptop. So to do this, you'll see what I mean by that. So at the end of the day, we're going to have an additional folder here, which will be like it will contain things from your laptop, so you can easily move files around with that. So to do that, you want to come to player, and then you want to go to settings is what I'm looking for. So this is a manage virtual machine settings. So once you get there, go to options, and this is where you want to go, shared folders. Currently it's disabled, so we want to enable it. So we want always enabled, and you want to click on map as network drive. All right, okay. So now before we now add, because we're going to have to click on this add, before we add, let's go back to our laptop folder, which is this one, and we're going to create a folder. So let me create a folder here. Okay, so this is one I normally use, virtual file share. So as you can see, there's only one folder in there. So this virtual file share, so let's assume it wasn't created before, so you can create your own folder and name it, and then you will come here and click on add, click on next, and browse to that same folder I just showed you. So we're going to look for virtual file share and click OK, and you can leave it the same name. If you say read only, that means you can't edit, you can't delete, you can't do anything from within the virtual machine, but I want to be able to have full control over it, so I won't click on read only. Enable this share, finish, and then OK. So as you can see, the folder automatically comes up here within our virtual machine. So if I click on this, it just takes me straight into our virtual file share, and then you can see the things there. So what I want to do now is to move that SQL file, which is from our downloads, and it's this one. I'll right click and let me cut, because I don't want to have multiple copies of the file. So go to D drive, virtual file share, and I'll just drop it in here. So we have that there, and boom, that's it. So if we go back into our virtual machine and open this, you would find it there. So now that we have our installation media, what you want to do is right click, run as administrator. Actually, let's cancel out. Let's copy this onto the desktop. Copy it. Let's bring it straight into our virtual machine desktop, so that we don't run it from the network. While that is copying, let me create some files, some folders rather. Okay, so if you go to is there need to do that? Yeah, let me just do that. Inside our desktop, create a new folder, and name this SQL, just SQL. So that's where I'm gonna put our database files. So right click. So now that this is on our desktop, so I can right click and run as administrator. Okay. So now that that finished running, you can see it created an additional folder on the desktop. Let me minimize this so you can see. Let's refresh. So this is the folder that I created. This is the new one that got created as a result of running this, you see. So we just keep waiting for it to continue with its operation. Then you'll see this box come up, so you can drag it to the middle where you can see, and you see there are a couple of options on the left. So there is planning, installation, maintenance, tools, resources, options. What you're interested in is the installation, and on the right hand side you see new SQL Server standalone installation, or add features to an existing installation. You're not upgrading, you're creating a new installation. So click on that, and you'll see this box come up. So accept license terms. I don't turn on customer experience. Next. It will check some rules. So if everything is fine, it comes to this page. Use Microsoft Update to check for updates recommended. Yes. Next. So if all the checks go well successfully, you will see this page, and what this is telling you is these are all the features that comes with this installation media that we downloaded. So there are so many technologies that SQL Server have. So it's going to ask you which one do you want to work with. So we're not working with replication. We are not going to be working with full text. We are not, well, we will be working with reporting services. So we'll leave that. And this is the part for Management Studio. So if you uncheck this, you won't have Management Studio. So you can leave every other thing as it is. So the only thing you want to just remove basically is SQL Server replication and full text and semantic extraction for search. So this is the root directory for the installation, and you leave that as default. Click on next. Okay, so if you get to this page, it's saying Microsoft.NET Framework Service Pack 1 is required. So what you want to do is come to Server Manager. So there's an icon right here. Come to Server Manager and drag it to the middle. You can enlarge it if you want, and go to Add Roles and Features. So if this comes up, click on Next. 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 Then you want to look for .NET. Next. This is what you're looking for. .NET Framework. Next. And install. So now we have this completed, so you can close when it's done. So we can go back to our, let's minimize this. So you can come back here and rerun. So that works fine. So the next thing you want to do is, let me quickly explain to you the difference between default instance and named instance. Now, named instance is the one that comes with your installation by default. So in this case, we have SQL Express. So if you installed another version, it won't be a SQL Express. Most likely it will be MSQL Server, right? So, you know, typically it's either you find this or you find this for default instance, right? Okay, so let me remove this. So okay, so this is our default instance, and you can I mean, sorry, no, sorry, default instance, I beg your pardon. Default instance is what I mean. So default instance, this is how you find it. It's still the same thing like I said earlier on, that you find it MSQL Server. So in some instances you would find this as the default instance, and in some cases you find this as the default instance. So in this case, what we have is SQL Express as our default instance, and you can only have one default instance per server, right? So we have this server right now. If we want to have more than one instances of SQL Server, we can. As a matter of fact, we can have up to, I think it's 32. You can have as much as 32 different installation of SQL Server on one computer. But after you install the first one, which happens to be the default instance, if I were to install another one, which is the second one, it would be named instance. So by then, I won't be able to call it this. I could call it anything I want. I could call it my name, Dare. I could call it 3x point. You can name it anything that you like. So in this case, because it is our first installation, I would just make it default instance. I mean, even if it's your first installation and you want to choose to use the named instance, you can still do that. But the moment you put an installation on the computer and it's the default one, then you cannot have any second default instance anymore. It's going to be just one. So in this case, I'll leave it as default and I'll go to next. So there are validation errors on this page. Click OK to close the box and review the errors. So click OK. Instance ID cannot contain spaces. So it found a space somewhere. So I think it's because of this space. That's why. So let's click on next, and that works. So now we get to a page where it's asking us for um, some service accounts. So you would be hearing service account a lot when you get to work. So service account is just a user account that would be running the database engine. So there are two engines that we'll be installing here. So we're having the reporting services engine and we're having the database engine. So it's asking us what sort of account do we want to use. I would say just leave it at default. So NT service MS SQL server is a default. So you leave it at that. Now for collation, we'll also leave it at collation, but let me just quickly explain to you what we mean by collation. Collation typically just tells the database engine what sort of language and accent you want it to have. So the default is Latin 1 general, and CI means case insensitive. So if you want your installation to be case sensitive, you could just customize it, and you have a bunch of selections that you can, pick from here, different languages, and you can specify the case sensitivity, which is that. You can decide on the accent. So accent sensitivity, there's some languages that, when you see E, it has an accent on top of the character. So you want the database engine to be accent sensitive, then you click on this. So this is where you configure the Latin 1 general collation for the database engine. So the default is Latin 1 general CIAS, so I'm going to leave it at that. Pretty much leave everything at default. I just wanted you to know the meaning of all these things you're looking at. So when we go to the next page, it says server configuration, and this configuration is asking us what sort of authentication do we want. Windows authentication or mixed mode. Windows authentication, there's another video which I have done, and we explained in detail what Windows authentication mode is, and the other type of authentication, which is SQL Server authentication. So by the time we start talking about connecting to SQL Server, you would understand in detail the differences between the two. But for now, just leave it as I'll say mixed mode. Yes, leave it at mixed mode, and then you specify a password. Okay, specify a password, and if you don't have this come up, you can just click on this to add current user, but because I already have it, I'm not going to click on anything. Data directories, you need to go in here, and that's the essence of this other folder that I created earlier on, SQL, because that's where I want my data to go to. So the root data directory, I would just what I'll do is I'll remove everything and say d colon backslash. And if you notice, the moment I put D, every other thing here changed. If you didn't notice, you can rewind the video and you would see it wasn't D before. So by putting this D, it just changed. But hey, that we don't actually have a D drive, so there's no point putting D. Had it been we had another drive, we do have a D drive, but this is not a local drive. This is something else entirely. I mean proper disk drive with some space in it, like this C. But because this is a network drive, which remember what we did earlier on, we can't use that one either. So but because we have only C, so I'm going to select C. So what I'll do is I would just click on browse here and go to my desktop, because I want this SQL folder that I created earlier on. So I'll click on OK. So now, as you can see again, everything has changed and it has taken everything to that direction. That's just what I want. You don't need to touch anything here. This place is enough. So just direct it to the new folder that you created. And user instances, you can leave that as default. File stream, don't enable file stream, we don't need that. And that's it. That's all you need to know as far as this configuration is concerned. So click on next, and it's asking you for reporting services. Do you want to install and configure or install only? I'll leave it at install and configure, and click next. And that's pretty much everything. So installation is in progress, and by the time it's complete, it will tell you it's complete. So now we have our installation almost completed. Okay. This actually takes a very long time depending on the configuration you have on your server. So if you bring up Task Manager, you can see the performance of your server and see how it's doing. Look on performance. So we're using up 75% of memory, CPU is taking 30%. And don't forget, these are the resources for the virtual machine and not the main laptop, which is the host computer. Okay. Okay, so looks like we have a successful installation right here. So now we can click out and say close. And close. And close out everything. So if you click on the Windows button for the virtual machine, this Windows here is for the laptop, for the main computer, but this one is for the virtual machine. And then if you come to this search box and type SSMS, see, Management Studio comes up, and you can click on that, and then you see the tool starting up. So while that is starting up, I'll minimize this. There's one more thing we need to download, which is the that's the Adventureworks database. We're going to be working with that a lot. So go to Google and click on type in download Adventureworks. What we want is for 2014 because we downloaded 2014 SQL Server, so it has to be compatible with the same version. So it's actually a Microsoft product. It's like Adventureworks is like a company that sells bicycles and accessories and a lot of things like that. They manufacture and sell these things. So they have a database that models a proper company. So it's like a test database that we'll be working with. So you can come to Codeplex. It's actually being made available through Codeplex. And then if you come here, you would see you can what we're looking for is 2014. This page is actually taking us to 2012 and 2008. That's not what we want, so I'll cancel that. This let me just go for the first one. Okay, so it automatically downloads. So there we have it. So I can open this, show in folder, takes me straight to the folder where it's downloading. If I refresh, okay, so we have it. Now what I'm going to do is I'll right click and cut it and take it into, remember, our virtual file share, and drop it in there so that I can go back into my virtual machine. Okay, so Adventureworks has opened. You see this box. So server name, that's the name of your server. Windows authentication, leave it at the default, just click on connect. Right, so let me open up this and go into this folder of virtual file share. So this is the Adventureworks I just downloaded. So click on it, you come up, you see extract. So extract it, extract all, and extract. And this is the file that will be provided onto us. So what we want to do now is copy this backup file uh, and then just drop it on your desktop. Okay, so now because the file we have is a backup file, so we're going to restore it onto this database. So if you click on databases and then click on databases like that, so that this blue highlight comes up, right click and go for restore database. So you would see this box come up. What you want to click on is device, and this little box right here, click on it. Another box comes up, click on add. Okay, I'm having a little bit of issue with my display, so ideally you would see a number of icons here that you can click and navigate to where you're going to. But in this situation, I'm going to have to improvise. And how I will do that is by coming to my desktop folder and copy. No, if I do this, it's just going to say desktop. I know the file path to get to my desktop like this. So to get there, I will go into C drive. I'll go to users, administrator, and desktop. So I just need the file path. So I'm going to copy this file path, and I will put it here. I'll remove this and paste it here. Then there's a refresh button here. If I refresh, no, it took it back. Don't refresh. Let's just leave it here. And let me go back in here and right click on the database file. Right click on this database file and rename. Select all. Select all is none. What I did was Control A. So copy and paste. So now you see the OK button has come up. Just click OK. So you can see it's there. OK. Right. Okay. For some reason this is having a little bit of issue. Okay, I know what the problem is. I think it doesn't like this .bak that comes along with it. So I'll remove and go through the process again. So I'm copying it without the .bak. Okay, click OK. Click OK. Oops, it's not seeing it. Okay, right. Let me do a little bit of troubleshooting and pause the video and come back. Okay, so what it is we have to enlarge this, maximize. So for some reason, because it was minimized, you can see some edges. You can see that some things are trying to show, but it's not coming up. And I guess that's as a result of the screen resolution that I have chosen. So, but at least if you enlarge it like this, if you ever have the same problem, if you enlarge it like this, you will understand that it's possible to now see what you couldn't see before. Right, so I want to get to desktop. So to do that, you have to go to C drive, users. Because I'm administrator, I'll just click on administrator. And okay, there's more actually. Okay, so what I've had to do is it wasn't working within the virtual machine, and that's because of some screen resolution thing. If you have the same problem, just send an email to support@3xpoint.com, or you send us a message on Facebook. But if it does work for you, this is what you would see. So if you go to users and then navigate to your username, so in the case of the virtual machine, it would have been administrator, and then you go to desktop. When you get to desktop, which is where the file is, what you should see is this. You should see this like that. And once you click on that, you can now click OK. So this is what I expected to happen, and then you can click OK. Alright, and you can see that on top of it right here it says ready and your Adventureworks and everything, and you could just click OK. But because I already have the database, I won't. If I click OK, it will fail, obviously, because it already exists. But in your own case, you could just click OK, and everything will be fine. So actually, mine is even working. It's just overwriting the existing database that I have. So this is what you would have restored successfully, and you can click out, and that's it. So for my virtual machine, it didn't work because of some resolution problem. The file couldn't come up here, but I've just shown you what exactly you should need to do. So, but the other way to do this is to bring the database on here using SQL code. So you don't need to worry about that. But if you need the code as well, you can send an email. I can send the code to you, and all you need to do is just paste the code in here and click execute. It will install the database on there for you. So once that database is there, this is what it will look like. So you can click on the node and you would find Adventureworks 2014 database. You click on the node for that as well. You can see tables, views, and all manner of things. So that's it. So this is how to set up your environment completely from A to Z. If you're using Mac OS 10, it's the same process. The only difference is just that you would install VMware Fusion instead of Workstation Player. And that will be it. So see you in the next movie.